I have flaws myself. I'm a human being. I have flaws. My brain has flaws, and we have glitches. Speaking in technology
Yes.
vocabulary. So how can we create AI that doesn't have these flaws and doesn't mimic these flaws? So take for example, in governmental policies, we
Mm.
have an AI that can identify your facial expressions or can identify yourself in the streets. What if the government that we're saying has some sort of discriminatory policy against one particular um, group?
Yes.
So how can we prevent this? Is it possible to create a perfect AI?
Good question. I think we have to touch here on two things. Like one was your discussion about Anil's video that basically shows hallucinating machines. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one, which is the problem of bias in AI.
Mm.
Yeah, I think these are the two main things we can get out of this conversation. So the problem, the thing about hallucinating, yeah, or hallucinating machines, it's quite an interesting problem. You basically reverse the flow of information, and that's how that hallucination actually works in neural networks. So what happens is that you give him a certain amount of images or databases of specific things. So
Mm.
for example, in Anil Seth's example, there were databases with dogs, I think flowers, and something else,
Yeah.
maybe cats, I don't know, birds, exactly birds. So dogs, birds, and flowers, yeah? And these are the three categories that this neural network understands of the world, right? So you could, in a forward fashion, it would be able to recognize if there is an image of a bird somewhere, there is a bird there, or there is a dog there, or there's a flower there. But because we're inversing the flow, this neural network has to make sense of the world that it's perceiving,
Mm.
right? And the only categories it knows of the world is dogs, birds, and flowers. So everything he sees, he tries to interpret as a bird, a dog, or a flower. And that's why in these videos, it starts to be these monstrous things that look like weird combinations of flowers and dogs and birds. Yeah. Because that's how this neural network is making sense of the world. It doesn't understand anything else of the world. Yeah. And hallucination seems to be related in that area that we try to make sense of things, and that's why we hallucinate content of something that is not there, right? So
Oof.
we see things that are not present, but because our brain is trying to make sense of that what we're seeing. Yeah.
Wow. Oof. So going deep on that, it's hard to imagine that we're not hallucinating reality itself, right? The way we.
Exactly. That's, by the way, also really a big part of the conversation is that there can be an idea where what we consider reality is just what we all can
Collectively agree
where
on.
we all agree on certain things, but in reality, we're all seeing the world differently because we're all hallucinating the world in a different way.